was hoping we could go 1 week on Poldark without an attempted rape. Guess I was wrong. Ross is selling everything off and feels bad because he didn't go into timbers like everybody else. He has tremendous guilt over the cost of running his mind emotionally and financially, but is especially upset about the loss of life. In the midst of his melancholy, he runs into his nemesis, George, who then tells him, ha, he got everything, especially Elizabeth. Of course, George doesn't know that Ross just had Elizabeth. Speaking of Elizabeth, she can't deal with anything and is day drinking with her Aunt Agatha. And while George and Ross and Elizabeth try to deal with their triangle, Demelza has taken to just sitting in bed. She doesn't come out of her room and Ross doesn't want her to be mad anymore, but he still wants Elizabeth. In fact, at one point in the episode, he actually says, "I would never deliberately hurt you. In the moment, there was no thought of you." Yeah, we know. And you know what else? It feels like Ross just gets everything. Except Elizabeth. She's planning her wedding to George, and then decides to postpone the wedding, which makes an always surly George even more annoyed. And then he starts interrogating her about Ross, because he assumes that's the reason. And this is the part of the episode where I just stare at the TV and yell, "Don't tell him!" She doesn't, which is good, but she still puts off the wedding. She's so upset about the whole thing that she passes out, right when Verity comes to visit and Dr. Ennis comes to treat her. He thinks she has a fragile disposition. Of course, we all know she just has a Ross disposition. Demelza decides to go to a house party and dolls herself up in hopes of getting back at Ross by sleeping with Captain McNeil. He kisses her out in the gardens and she tells him where her room is, but when she's sitting there thinking about it, she starts to have regrets because, let's face it, Demelza has character, unlike Ross and Elizabeth and George. So when he comes upstairs, she tells him no, but he is not taking no for an answer, and he just keeps pushing her physically, and it is very upsetting, but Demelza gets rid of him. At this point, Elizabeth is home in bed, Ross is out of town, and Demelza and George are at a house party. Verity, who was alone for the whole first season, now has found love and is the only one in bed with someone that she actually wants to be. That's life. Demelza heads home and Ross finds her with good news about the mine. But she doesn't seem to care. She doesn't want to be second best. And Elizabeth must now once again settle for second best with George. This whole episode made me think about forgiveness. We're told to forgive, we try to forgive, and a lot of times we can actually do it. But can you ever actually forget?